All right, so this video is going to cover this practice quiz, inheritance quiz number 4. And so let's start going through these multiple choice questions. So 1 through 5 all are going to talk about this ABC and XYZ class. So in ABC, you got a private variable A. So A is only accessible through ABC, but through its, let's see here. Yep, it's only accessible. There's not even a public method in here to access A. So XYZ cannot access A. But it could access B because B is public. So A has a method C that prints ABC. XYZ is a ABC, and it is a because it extends. So C is a method in XYZ that if XYZ were to be called, it would override the C method in ABC. And what it would do is it would super in this, so it would print ABC before XYZ. And the XYZ class also has a Z method that calls C. So it would call this C and not that C. Again, that's one of the principles of the overriding type concept that we've been learning about. So which statement best characterizes the relationship between the two classes? Is an ABC and XYZ? No, not necessarily. It could be, but it's not necessary. It's kind of like, is a mammal a human? Well, a mammal could be a human, but a mammal also could be a dog, so you have to go backwards. A human is a mammal, or a dog is a mammal, but an XYZ is an ABC. An ABC isn't necessarily an XYZ. So what is your answer? B here? An XYZ is an ABC. Which members of the class ABC can be used directly by XYZ? So XYZ, can it access A? A's right here. No, it can't because A is private. Okay. Can it access B? Yep, because B is public. And it can access C as well because C would be inherited in through ABC, even though it would be overridden right here, but we still get to use it right there if we call it using super.c, so we can access that in XYZ. So your answer is what? D, 2 and 3. 3, what is printed by the following statement? So we've got a Q object created from the XYZ class, and Q calls Z. Well, when Q calls Z, what happens? It calls Z right here. So then C gets called through the... I guess so. C gets called right there. Bam. So C gets called. At runtime, it knows to call this C. So then the super C gets called right there. Bam. So ABC prints. And then this line of code is complete. And then XYZ would print. So ABC, XYZ is your answer. So it is C. ABC, XYZ. 4, consider the following statement. We've got items, which is an ABC array list. Which of the following statements will produce a compile error? Can we add a new ABC to items? Of course we can. Can we add an XYZ to items? Of course we can. An XYZ is an ABC. That's fine. Can we add a new object to items? No, we cannot, because there is no, I mean, right here, there's no object class that extends ABC, so you can't do that, can't add that. So your answer for 4 is what? C? Which of the following will cause a compile answer? So 4 would have to be C. And consider the following statements. You have an ABC object called P. So this is going to do something with polymorphism. Which of the following, if used to replace missing, will cause an error? Well, P will only know methods in ABC. It will not be able to access the methods in XYZ. So if it tries calling Z right there, you would have an error. So your answer to this one is C. So if it calls Z, you're going to have an issue because P will only know the ABC methods. Okay, that's something that you're going to have to remember. If you see something like this where you have an XYZ as an ABC, it's still just an ABC object, all right? All right, so the diagram below shows a hierarchy of classes used in a telephone billing system. So we got a phone call, a local call, a long distance call, and a reduced rate call. So phone call is going to be an abstract class. So remember, an abstract class can have abstract methods, or it doesn't necessarily have to. If there's an abstract method in phone call, then unless these are also abstract classes, you have to implement the abstract method from phone call into either local call, long distance, or reduced rate. So let's read this. A phone call holds objects. Phone call object holds information about the call duration. So in minutes, it's how long. So you guys aren't really used to this with your cell phones. Maybe some of you can look at this. A lot of the plans now are like unlimited minutes or whatever, but this used to be more of an issue back when I was growing up with long distance calls. They'd actually charge you extra money for long distance calls. So I don't know if this kind of confuses you because you're like, hey, this isn't how phones work anymore, then yeah. So either way, just know that like long distance calls had different rates than local calls, and I guess there's this reduced rate call that they could give to their customers. Maybe they're like preferred customers that, you know, they pay like an extra fee every month or whatever, and they get access to a reduced rate per minute call or whatever. So where am I in reading this? So the duration in minutes is stored in the object phone call, and the methods necessary to calculate the total cost of the call based on its duration and rate. Phone call's constructor assigns a unique sequential number to the call. The phone call class does not deal directly with permanent rates. Instead, it relies on an abstract method, getRate. So getRate is your abstract method in phone call, which means it needs to be implemented in local call or long distance call or reduced rate call. The rate for a local call is defined in the parameters to local call's constructor. The rate for a long distance call is for now. So a long distance call rate is $6, and the rate for a reduced call is 1/2 the rate for a regular long distance. So the rate for this is 1/2 of the long distance. Okay. Your task is to write the phone call, long distance, and reduced rate call classes. In writing these classes, you must avoid duplication of code. The classes should, whenever possible, reuse the code from the class's hierarchy, higher in the hierarchy. Okay, your class should support So we've got a phone calls list, and it holds phone calls. So, you know, and since your local call will inherit from phone call, and long distance will inherit from phone call, and reduced rate call will inherit from long distance, you can add all these in. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a for loop of call of all the calls, and then we're going to print out. So it should display, so if you had a 10-minute call and the rate that was passed in was $2.25, that'd be $25. If you had a 3-minute call at $6 for the long distance, and LD is long distance, that would cost $18. An 8-minute call at $3, that's half of the long distance, would be 8 times 3 is 24, and that's a long distance reduced rate call. Okay. So write the complete definition of the abstract phone call. Your class must have the following features: an instance variable that holds the call duration. So that's going to be a private int duration. Maybe it could be a double too. I think I put, let's go down here and look at this. Private int duration. So I just made it an integer. Okay, so that's easy to do. B, or a constructor that initializes that instance variable to a given integer value. So what was your duration would equal in your constructor? It would equal whatever's passed in, right? So you got your public phone call, that's the constructor of phone call. It passes in the minutes, and then the duration is equal to the minutes. So these two lines of code are really easy. You know, and I don't know if I got this on a test, I'd probably just grade each bullet as 1 point, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, you know, boom, you did that, you got your point. Boom, you did that, you got your point. An accessor method for the call duration, so that would just be what? Public int get duration and then return duration. I mean, we've done this. This is intro type stuff right here. Get duration, return duration. Okay, so that one's easy to do. An abstract method get rate that takes no parameter, returns a double. Okay, so that's, you know, that's new to the chapter. So how do we make our abstract method? Public abstract double get rate. So again, there's nothing in the body of this thing. You just end it with a semicolon. Okay, so don't let it confuse you about, you know, actually putting the return and returning a rate or whatever. It's just, there's nothing in the body. It's just the header. So abstract methods are just the header of the method. So that should be easy. It's not hard. It's just, you know, you got to memorize it. A private method that calculates the total cost of the call is the product of the call duration and the rate rounded to the nearest integer. So, I don't know, public void, it calculates the total cost. Does it get the total? No, it just calculates. So public void total cost, or set total cost. What did I call it down here? Oh, they want us to get it. All right, maybe it should be more clear. But anyway, private int get total, where we get the duration, it returns the duration, and we get the rate, which this will be calculated at the long distance and reduced rate level. Okay, it won't be at the phone call level, because remember, we're not an abstract class. You can't create an instance of it. You can't create an object of phone call, so it doesn't matter. So when the actual ones get implemented and called, then they'll go up here. You know, when you call well, we'll go through it in a minute anyway. So, a toString method that displays the duration, excuse me. Woo. A toString method that displays the duration rate and total cost of the call on one line as the following. So we'll have the word duration, and this will be, we need to get the duration rate, get the rate and total, and then you would just multiply those. And the way that you wouldn't multiply those, you would just call get total, and that's where your multiplication occurs. So duration, get rate, total, get total. And so all these methods get called, and that's your toString. Okay, so B, write the class long distance call. The rate for all long distance calls is set to 6. Provide other necessary features so that the long distance call objects can generate text output. For example, so we create a new long distance call. We pass in 3. That's the duration. So that'd be your get duration. Would return that. And okay, so this is pretty easy. So for part B, you've got your long distance constructor, long distance call, extends phone call, minutes gets passed in, so we super in the minutes. We have to now, for get rate, we actually have to implement it in the long distance call because it's not abstract. Okay, remember this one up here, this class is phone call is abstract, and it has an abstract method get rate. And so get rate has to be implemented at the long distance call level. If it's not, then long distance has to be called has to be abstract, and this has to be changed to abstract. So you must implement it here. So all it is just you return 6. That's the rate. It's hard coded in there for you. And then the toString, we super in the toString from up here, which would get all this stuff. Now, get duration would be called right there, and then the duration would be returned in here. The rate would get the rate. Now, this is where your polymorphism stuff occurs. It would override right here, and then 6 would be returned right there. And then when we get the total, it would get the duration from right here, and then it would get the total, get the rate. It would get the rate from right here, and 6. So then it'd be 3 times 6 would be 18 or whatever, however many minutes it was. And so super would do that. It would call this toString, and the only thing it would add to it would be this LD for long distance. So C, write the class reduced rate call as a subclass of long distance call. The rate for a reduced rate call is 1/2 of the rate of a long distance call. Provide other necessary features so that the reduced rate call objects can generate appropriate text output. For example, the output, so 8 would be passed in, and then we have to do 1/2 of 6, so that would be 3, and then 8 times 3 is 24, and then you'd have this LD. You would super all this in from above, and then you just add RR at the end for your toString down here. So that's where this toString is. It's just super in all the toStrings from above, and then your reduce rate would be right there. Your reduce rate would extend the long distance. Our reduced rate would super in the minutes. So again, a lot of this stuff, you should be able to write it. In my mind, the only thing that might get kind of confusing would be this right here. But even that's not bad. You super in, you get the rate from above, which would be 6, and you multiply it by 1/2. And that's your new rate, get rate for a reduced rate call. So we would super the toString, which would, super that. which would go all the way up to here for duration, and then it would get the duration. There's your minutes that would be returned. And then you'd have rate, and then you'd get the rate. Now the rate here would call this rate right here, and you'd super get rate right there. Okay, again, you got to be able to follow where I'm going here, okay, because this is calling this, which is calling this whole thing. Then this gets the duration from above up here. The get rate would call, because it's a reduced rate, it's a long distance call, it would get that and return that, or sorry, see, I'm even screwing up. That would call this, and then this right here would get this rate from right here, which would return 6 right here. 0.5 times 6 is 3, so 3 would print right there. And then you'd have total get total, which would then do what? It would get the total from up here, which is get duration again up above, then get the rate, which would what? Get this rate, which would be, you know, it would return 3. So what was it, 8 times 3 or whatever, and then you get your total, and then this. So that's a little convoluted the way it jumps back and forth, but that's basically how it works. So anyway, study that and make sure you're practicing this on your own. So this video is done.